It's time for this week's episode of Brandon's Sports Talk.
Welcome back to Brandon's Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the USA Alpine Skiing, AJ Ginnis. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into professional alpine skiing?
Skiing is one of those sports that it's unlike basketball or football you might pick up at school. It's a sport that requires a lot of resources. So my parents put me in the sport at a very young age and eventually, progressed through the ranks, and it kind of happened. It was like, obviously growing up, something I wanted to do, but it wasn't until later on where I really decided this is the path I wanted to take.
What was that like, obviously getting involved in competing in the giant slopes and the slopes?
It was daunting at first, but really, really, really cool experience overall. It's like anything, you do it enough times, you get over the fear factor, and there's definitely a big fear factor in skiing, but so it makes it cool.
How was that like, obviously getting into the US skiing at the age of 11?
So I actually grew up in Europe up until I was 15. I actually started skiing in Greece and in Austria. And it wasn't until I was 15 where I started skiing in the US. My dad was Greek, my mom's fully American. So we made it over when I was 15. And I think I made the national team when I was 17. So, within 8 years of me being in the sport, I went from skiing to Greece to making the US national team. So that was pretty fun, pretty cool experience, not gonna lie.
What was that like, obviously traveling at such a young age, competing and skiing in Greece and then coming to the US?
Definitely a culture shock at first. It's the early stages of social media. I think the only thing we had was Facebook. So moving to the US was very foreign. Like, it's like kind of what you see in the movies. And my mom, like whatever culture my mom brought into the household. So definitely a culture shock. And then for the rest of it, it was, skiing. So same.
What was that like going to Switzerland in 2017 for the World Championship?
That was a really cool experience. That was my first, major event with the US. Qualifying for the World Championships. It was definitely a goal of mine going into the season, and having it happen was, big thing for me, as was. Definitely, a learning experience, not great performance, but moving forward with it.
During that time, what was that like going to college at Dartmouth while competing for the US national team?
So Dartmouth, I started up at Dartmouth spring of 2015, and I'm actually just finishing now. So like almost 8 years later. Dartmouth provides a quarter system, which is very advantageous for skiers because their classes start April 1st, give or take, and our season ends, March 28th. So it's just perfect. You finish the season, go to school for 10 weeks, and then you're out. So I was able to do that with a couple of other teammates of mine. So we go do a term every year. So we call it ironically the 12-year plan, because you take a term every year. But with injuries and stuff, you kind of accelerate that. But it was just really cool to balance, a life balance of being on the road, skiing professionally, and then coming back in the spring and kind of like settling down and having like a quote unquote normal college experience.
Of course, what was that like, obviously planning that out and obviously going to Dartmouth while training for World Championships in Greece?
Dartmouth is just it was awesome. They were so they provided us with the proper training facilities. We were able to use their varsity gyms and all their other track fields football field for any training needs. And a lot of the professors, if we had to take 10 weeks or 10 days throughout the term to go on a trip to or a ski camp, training camp to Mammoth or Palisades or Mount Hood, they were very flexible with allowing us, working with us, allow us to go there and come back without missing a substantial school.
What does it mean to you to be a Greek American skier and get to represent not just America but Greece?
I don't know about great, but making it to the World Cup level has definitely been a very cool experience. I still feel like I have a lot of work to do if I want to keep myself in the sport. But yeah, it's definitely an honor. You get your every year you get your suit. Whether it's a Greek suit or US suit, there's this like patriotic feeling almost of like representing your country on the world's biggest stage of a sport. Even though skiing isn't a big sport, it is kind of, it does have a good amount of decent following in Europe. So having the honor to do that is pretty special.
What was that feeling like for you when you got announced to become Olympian and be on the Olympic team?
So I never actually got competed in the Olympics. But this past year, I sustained an injury in the preseason, and then I was hired by NBC to be an on-the-spot analyst, researcher at the games. So I got to experience the games from a different perspective, not from an athlete's perspective, which was very interesting. I'm hoping in 4 years in Milano Cortina, I'll be able to kick out of the gate instead of spectate.
What was that like, obviously being a sideline reporter in the Olympic Games and covering it?
Well, I feel like China had its difficulties to begin with, due to COVID travel, no spectators. So first off, like hats off to what they were able to accomplish there. Like what they built was truly magnificent. And if that venue existed in the US, that would be, world renowned. It was extremely cold, and it just made it a little tough to fully experience the Olympics just because of the entire COVID protocols of where we lived. We weren't allowed to go out and venture, see the place, see the culture, meet with locals. One of the best things about ski racing is that we do travel so much that, we get to go to really unique places and explore. China didn't allow for that. So, we kept it strictly skiing. So in terms of being there was cool to watch, friends and teammates perform, win medals, experience heartbreak, kind of watching everything from a fourth dimension almost, from above. It was really interesting to see how everything comes together for an event as big as the Olympics.
What does a typical competition day look like for you?
So competition days, for my event, so I'm a slalom skier, we usually compete in Europe. It's early mornings, you wake up at 6, breakfast, warm up, go to the hill around 8, 8:30 is inspection. So we get to slip down a course once, and we get to see, what the snow is like. It's usually really icy. And then we get to inspect the terrain and see what the set is like. So, we get to see whether there's a pin, a flush, whether there's swing in the course, whether it's a fast or straight course. Then we, head down, do some more warm up on skis, and then, get ready for the race. From inspection till first run, it's kind of not nerve-wracking, but everyone's very serious. Everyone's very concentrated on what they're doing. And then when the race starts, there's nothing like those 2 minutes before you get in the gate and kick out. You're nervous, you're a touch scared, and then when you kick out of the gate and you just have this incredible adrenaline rush of just survival almost. So it's a really cool experience, and yeah, that's kind of what it's like.
What is that feeling like when you get to put on that Team USA gear and obviously represent Team USA?
Well, as I previously stated, it's a great honor. I mean, every time you get your uniform in the beginning of the year, it's this great thing. I think a couple of years ago, they gave us these race suits, skin tight suits that you associate ski racing with, and it was in the color pattern of Captain America. So that was so the company that made those was Spider, and they collaborated with Marvel to make superhero suits for us, and that was really really special. That was really cool, just having like a big star on your chest, like stars and stripes, all that. You feel like a superhero almost.
What is the preparation like, obviously preparing for race day and going down the slopes?
Well, in the off season, we spend a lot of time in the gym working on, strength, endurance, especially core strength. And there's just a lot of time that goes into off season training. I think it's just as important to be training, on snow as well as off snow, because off snow you develop skills which kind of open doors for you when you're on the hill. So we spend a lot of time in the gym, a lot of time on the bike, a lot of time just kind of working on our bodies.
Of course, what are some of your rituals that you do during your competition day?
I have to always put on my right boot first. Like it's one of those things. I always have to put on my right boot, and I always have to. These are stupid, but I always have to kiss my necklace and put it underneath my layers. And yeah, those are two things I have to do every time.
Who are some of the people that you look up to in the alpine skiing?
Wow, that's there's a bunch. For me, it's mostly teammates and friends. Those guys are like a lot of those guys for me are inspirational. Recently, Ryan Cochran Siegel won the silver in Beijing in the SuperG, and that was just an extraordinary moment for him. It was also an extraordinary moment for me. I was so psyched for him, and definitely a guy that I grew up racing with and who ended up making it. So yeah, he's definitely one of my idols these days.
What is your favorite competition that you've done so far?
So far, I love the race in the slalom in Kitzbühel, Austria. It's one of those races where there's like 40,000 people there, 50,000. For a ski race, that's a lot. And it's just this unique hill and this unique place in Austria that has a lot of ski racing history. And I've raced there a couple of times, I think 4 or 5 times now. And every time I go back, I just feel like a little kid in a candy store. It's like, wow, I can't believe I'm part of this. So that's definitely it.
Of course, for you, what is that like, obviously going down the SuperG?
So SuperG, I never really competed in the SuperG. The SuperG, I sustained the ACL injury when I was 17, and didn't really go back to that event. But that is one of the cooler events. It's very fast, and you're kind of like hucking yourself down this hill, going 60, 80 miles an hour, trying to make it around these like flag gates, and it's just craziness.
What are some of your future plans in your career as an alpine skier?
Well, I'm currently recovering from another ACL injury. So, moving forward, I'm hoping that everything is healthy and that I'm able to, make it back to the World Cup and keep competing. And like as I said, in 4 years, I'm hoping I'm standing in Cortina with an opportunity to kick out of the gate.
Of course, what is your preparation like preparing for this upcoming Olympics?
Well, we have 3 seasons from now till then, so just building up your rank, trying to move up the ranks, and kind of trying to get a better start position. And I mean, the Olympics are like the big picture, if you will, like the big goal down the road. But till there's like a lot of racing to be done. So coming in next year, being fit, being healthy, and being in a mentally good mind space to perform. Those are like the short-term goals in order to make it to the big show.
What are some of the things that you've learned so far in alpine skiing that you didn't know before starting?
How grueling it is to travel. for 6 months or, for 8 months out of the year, living out of a suitcase. When you're younger, you can't wait to get out of the house. And then when you're, my age, 27, you can't wait to go home. Those are the funny things. What else? Perseverance and kind of like understanding how important, mentality and attitude is. When you're younger, you rely more on performance. And when you're older, I feel like you kind of are able to perform smarter. So you don't necessarily become a better skier. You just become a more consistent, smarter person in the field.
What advice would you give future people looking to get into alpine skiing and even college athletes looking to get into alpine skiing?
Well, the issue with skiing is that it is a skill sport. And it's extremely hard to start late. I don't know of anyone who started skiing, past the age of, 12 or 11 that's made it to the World Cup. So start early. If this is the path you want to go down, start early would be one. And B, that, it is older man's, it's an older person's sport. So you don't have, don't feel disappointed if, it doesn't all come at once. I feel like persisting in the sport is a lot more important.
What advice would you give those college alpine skiers looking to make it onto the Olympic level?
That's a very good question. It's tough. It's a competitive sport, and if if you're a college skier, it means that you've kind of been left outside the national team system. So you definitely have your work cut out for you. But it's happened. Happens every year. Someone from the college ranks kind of breaks through and makes it onto a national team and starts competing on the World Cup level. So as I kind of stated, persistence and working on yourself, working on your body, your mind, your mentals. Just getting that stuff done that way and persisting.
What advice would you give future professional alpine skiers looking to get started in the industry of alpine skiing?
As in working there in the industry?
Mm-hmm.
What advice? You got to get to know people. Ski racing is a very, very, I would say niche, very close, small, close group of individuals. And I feel like if you want to break into the industry, you have to kind of know individuals and what's going on. That's about it.
What advice would you give those people looking to go to the Olympics for the first time or multiple times in alpine skiing?
I mean, there's people that are better than me. I've never done that. I've been to the Olympics once and I was a spectator. So I don't think I have the advice for that.
Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Oh, so my Instagram is AJ_Ginnis, and that's about it.
Thank you again, AJ Ginnis, for your interview, and best of luck in your future in the US Alpine Skiing.
Thank you, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, AJ Ginnis, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you, Brandon. Take care.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.